think she knows a lot more than what she's letting on. I think basically she's lying.
After 3 days of testimony, Paula Vennells left, flanked by police.
Well, watching that with us now, former Sub-postmasters Lee Castleton and Janet Skinner. And very good morning to both of you. Morning. You were both in the inquiry yesterday and over the past 3 days.
Yeah.
Lee, just give us a sense. And it's worth saying, first of all, Lee, you were made bankrupt after you lost a 2-year battle with the post office. These shortfalls, they thought, in your takings. Janet, your story was that you were given a 9-month sentence in 2007 over an alleged shortfall, and you served 3 months in prison.
Yes, and then did the rest of it on, got out on good behaviour on tag. OK,
so Lee, you were in the room. I think we were actually looking, you were directly in the image we can see of those people who are not there, listening and watching. How is it for you listening to Paula Vennells giving her evidence?
I think it's part of the process. I think it's really good for us to be there and to actually look at what's going on and see all the things that are going on. I think it's part of the process that we need to see. You know, it needs to be open. It needs to be in the public eye, and it needs to be in a way that people can question and look at what's going on.
What did you make of her testimony?
I mean, probably both of us felt a lot of empathy because we've both been judged. You know, we both sat in that lonely seat where you're being looked at and picked at by legal people.
So that's interesting. On a human level, Janet, you sort of felt your heart went out to her to a certain extent. Okay.
I mean, on Wednesday, when she was like sat there giving evidence, and when it began, and she did the apology and everything, I felt that was really, really sincere. But to be fair, the empathy that I had towards her was because she was just sat there and she's got all this hatred towards her. It must be the most intense feeling ever. But I think the following day it just went off the cliff, didn't it?
I think she could have been a lot more candid.
Empathy.
I think there's so many things that you look at emails that she wrote at the time that she's trying to explain away now, and she could have just been a bit more honest, really.
Yeah, she had a perfect platform, didn't she, to have her say, to get her evidence heard and be able to just open up about everything. And I don't think it was...
And I think that was something that caused a lot of maybe anxiety in the room. You know, a lot of people were hoping that she could have been more candid.
Janet, what were the elements of what you heard that... I mean, you know this story because you lived it. But what were there elements that you heard in her evidence that shocked you, even given what you've been through?
No, not really. I think the way I see it with Paula Vennells is, yes, she was the CEO, but I mean, she just stonewalled the mediation because we was going through the mediation. We was both part of that group with Second Sight, so we was part of that investigation. And I think what shocked me the most is knowing how much they tried to stonewall it before it even...
There was so much hope there back in 2013. In the group, you know, we're such a close group and there's so many people that were really, really living in hope that we would finally come to an end 10 years ago, that they were finally listening and that they really were going to do something to help us. And actually, when you read the emails from the time, which we now see, that are now a matter of public record, that was never going to happen.
And at that point, she had the power, and it would have saved that decade.
That decision really stood by her.
I'm really struck, Janet, by going back to what you said just a moment ago. You were in prison in the sure knowledge that you had done nothing wrong.
Yes.
OK? And yet, you were able to sit and watch Paula Vennells, who was the CEO of the post office, and have empathy. And I mean, it speaks volumes for you that, you know, given what happened to you, that you're still able to think that way.
Because she wasn't in position when I was sent to prison. So I had a private meeting with Alan Cook after he gave evidence, and he offered the apology personally because he was in position when I was sent to prison. Paula Vennells was just coming into that job. So, I mean, I was sent to prison in the February. She'd just started in the January.
So there was, you could see, you were, in your head, you can see a separation, even though it was the organisation.
Yeah, it's the organisation.
Yeah.
It just, people are scapegoating her and putting a lot of hatred towards her, but actually forgetting who was in position when a lot of this
There's so many
happened.
facets to everything that's going on, and to look at it, if you step back and look at the people, the key players at the time, you know, the head of communications, the head of legal, all the different people that are interplaying this kind of cover-up.
Which is sadly why accountability is very tricky to put your finger on. And when you look at this battle for justice that has taken over hundreds of lives and the ripple effect for families and communities, when you think about the incremental realisation of what's been going on and the fight for justice, where does this week sit within that? How significant does it feel?
For me, the amount of paperwork that's now been uncovered as to reasons why, the things that were going on, it's now out there, and people can actually judge the people that were making decisions based on what they wrote at the time, not what's recollected now in a nice spin way, but actually what was written, which is shameful. It is absolutely shameful. A
lot of people, Lee and Janet, put this to both of you, are feeling that this should be investigated as a criminal matter.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've already made your minds up on that, or where do you sit with that, Janet?
I mean, I was sent to prison. I was in charge of one post office. I mean, Lee was made bankrupt. He was running one post office. There is thousands, as I keep saying, they had 11,500 post offices that there was all accountable for. Somebody needs to take account for what's gone wrong.
But it can't just be one person.
No,
This was groupthink. There was a lot of people involved in this, and people that we haven't heard from yet. You know, from the shareholder, the government, from other people that are in and around that sort of group. I mean, one of the key things that Paula Vennells did answer was that the shareholder was fully aware of what was going on. You know, and she had input into Royal Mail's flotation, you know, the IPO, the placing of the shares in the very instance that it was taken to a full float. She had a paragraph taken out of that document because it was unhelpful in actually floating the company. All of these things are, in my mind, something that needs to be really looked into.
Are you, to any degree, Janet, able to breathe a little easier after these particular 3 days? Because there was a lot of build-up and talk about her witness particularly. Are you able to breathe a little easier? Does it make much difference?
Not really. I think, to be honest, I came from there yesterday and I think I was more mad than anything. I mean, it started off with me feeling sorry for her, but then I was just full of anger because I just think she just had that perfect opportunity to open up, to protect herself, because she's had a lot of stuff, you know, chucked at her. I thought she would have opened up more, and I found it quite disappointing.
It's a huge stage, you know, she really could have laid it out there. It's still, in a way, the world, thankfully for the media, you know, the world is listening. And
there won't be another moment like that.
No, but having said that, it is also a huge step to actually hear from the person that has chosen not to do any interviews or any reasons why.
There, wasn't she, on Wednesday?
Yeah.
I mean,
finally, very quickly, seeing you all together this week and hearing about the friendships that have built over the past, well, beyond the last decade, how much of a comfort, how important have those relationships been?
I think it's being able to share with that person and that person knowing exactly what you've gone through. So you don't have to explain it.
It's quite a comforting part of the whole thing.
We appreciate you coming in this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Janet, Lee, thank you.
Thank you.
Time now is 8:25.
Let's go to Wembley. Mike is there. There's some sort of football match happening there this afternoon, Mike. I'm not sure I'll be watching. I'll be watching through my fingers.